This is Tuesday, September 14th, 2010. It is 9:02 a.m. and I call to order the regular weekly County Board of Commissioners in our public meeting. Present are Commissioner Al Schweitzer, John Elliott, Cheryl Hugo, Rachel Murray is our recording secretary, Dave Groff, our county counsel, and we have Joel Ashbrenner from the Herald and News. We will stand now open up for public comment. Anybody that would like to speak publicly, just come up and give your name and go for it.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. I'm Greg Addington. I work for the Klamath Water Users Association. We represent family farmers and ranchers and irrigation districts here in the Klamath Reclamation Project. I just want to take a couple of minutes here. I've been out of town a lot, but I also caught wind of some stuff going around related to the Klamath Basin Restoration Agreement, and I wanted to take an opportunity to set the record straight. I know that the City of Klamath Falls and others have been contacted about perhaps the agreement does something related to TMDLs, total maximum daily loads. This is the state water quality process that a lot of people have a lot of issues with, and I think the allegations have been that the agreement somehow, parties to the agreement are somehow bound to support whatever TMDL comes out of the state of Oregon. And in particular, I know there's been a reference to section 20.5.4. The heading of that section is state TMDLs, and it says the parties commit subject to applicable law to support the development and implementation of appropriate TMDLs. And it goes on, but that's the key phrase right there. And just a case in point, the Klamath Water Users Association is a party to the Klamath Basin Restoration Agreement. We currently object and oppose to the TMDLs being proposed by the state of Oregon for the Klamath River. So there's other elements that have been brought up about the defense of the agreement and obligations to support and things like that. And I could go into detail on that. What I will say is those elements are first, the whole first section of the agreement, or section 2 in particular, lays out all this, what it doesn't do, what it doesn't obligate elected officials, for example. It doesn't abrogate any of your responsibilities or ability to weigh in on issues. For us, some of these titles that people are looking at as like defense of the agreement, that's pretty important to the water users, because we want people to go and support federal legislation that's going to give us a secure supply of water. We want those other parties obligated to support those kind of things. These issues like TMDLs, with many of the parties that developed the agreement, we agree to disagree on a lot of things, and that's one of them. So I just wanted to raise that issue and put it on the record.
Appreciate any questions of Greg.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Greg,
you.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
I did the scan of that entire document. There's only 2 places apart from the index that even mentions TMDLs. The section that you described, 20.5.4 sub B, and then 25.1.5, and it says nothing in this section, and it's a section dealing with compliance with water quality issues. Nothing in this section is intended to affect existing or pending regulatory obligations not arising from reintroduction, including but not limited to implementation of load and waste load allocations identified in the pending Klamath River TMDL. Neither of those sections, those are the only 2 places in the entire document that the TMDLs appear. Neither one commits Klamath County to supporting any arbitrary TMDL designation that comes down the pike. And I wish Senator Whitsett would actually get his facts straight for once. There's nothing in the agreement that binds the City of Klamath Falls or South Suburban Sanitary District to any decision made by Klamath County in respect of TMDLs. Nowhere does it say that. We are the party. The City of Klamath Falls is not, nor is the South Suburban Sanitary District, and we cannot just unilaterally take on the role of deciding who's going to be subject to our rules or not. Now, if the senator wants to go after issues, then let him take it up with the state legislature. DEQ is a state entity, not a county entity. For Pete's sake, this board is trying to work within the rules and laws that are adopted by him and others like him at the state legislature and the federal legislature. And Senator McClintock is a classic example of a double-speaking politician. Says we won't do anything to change the Endangered Species Act, but by golly, we can't do anything. We, the people, we aren't going to allow you people in the basin to work within the existing framework, what that law requires. So not only is he unwilling to change the law, but he's unwilling to allow anybody to work with it. And that is hypocrisy of the highest order. I really am disgusted and dismayed that we're not. If the issue is TMDLs, then go after the author of the TMDL legislation. Klamath County didn't write that legislation. This board did not write that legislation. That was adopted at the state legislature. It was adopted by the federal Congress. He needs to turn his guns around to the other side of the ship.
Commissioner, if I could, I agree with you, and I will say that not only does it not, does the water user's signature on the agreement or the county's or anyone else bind the city or the South Suburban District to do anything, or it doesn't even bind the county to say, you're supporting it or not supporting it. It says appropriate, and that was a big word for us because appropriate is
and the other
whatever
big,
you determine.
The other big word in there, Greg, is the development.
Yeah.
We agree to support, subject to applicable law, which preserves our rights of appeal, to support the development of appropriate TMDLs and other water quality measures.
Right. If I could just say too, these obligations to support different regulatory approvals that may be necessary. Again, I point out that's going to be really important to us in ESA protections down the road when we develop habitat conservation plans. We need parties to this agreement to support those regulatory approvals. And I will also say, for the record, this is a good example of why Klamath County should be involved in this process. I mean, these things are going to come up. These issues are important to the. They're going. This thing is signed. It's an agreement that exists and will continue to exist. We need as many local people and as much local control as we can to be involved in this process. So, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Greg.
I think it's interesting, Greg. We talk about transparency in government, and we hear that word a lot today. And then we go on the radio and we just manage to forget to put a word in. Yeah. Now, maybe it's an oversight. Maybe I'll give him credit for that. But the other thing that wasn't mentioned in his article today was that the county has written a rather strongly worded 3-page letter opposing the TMDLs as they are proposed. And we are in record of having done that. We've done it. I agree. I mean, we're not bound, and neither is the city or South Suburban or Water District or anybody else on the TMDLs as they're written. In fact, I think the vast majority, if not all, oppose it. Mm-hmm. And we will continue to oppose it. I think if we're going to have transparency, we need to have true transparency. Let's put it out on the table exactly what's happened. And we'll be more than happy to let people see that letter. It was a public document.
We also, on both the California Klamath River TMDL and the Oregon Klamath River TMDL, have extensive comments that we submitted that are on our website at KBRA.org that oppose the implementation of that TMDL as written. It's not appropriate. We have, I personally have spoken with the mayor of the city of Klamath Falls about getting together and seeing if there's ways we can collaborate together on, opposing some of these things like the standards that are set that are, frankly, probably unachievable in a natural setting. So,
Well, that's an interesting point too, because we know the backgrounds are there. And what they're trying to say with the TMDLs is, well, it's ag's fault, and therefore that's the reason we have it. And the proof is the backgrounds are already there. And no matter how much they clean up the discharge at the point source, the backgrounds are still there. They're not going to change. And that's what we pointed out in our letter. Our letter was pretty strongly written. I mean, these guys need to get their act together, and these are a state agency. Again, I agree with what John said. It's a state agency. It needs to be taken care of, but we're certainly not bound to any standard where we can't speak out, and we certainly are.
Well, and I do want to put into, again, confer, it is a state agency and a state senator work together, but the idea, the reason we signed on to the KBRA was to be at the table to help make these decisions. I don't want to sit back and have everybody else going and making these decisions, TMDLs or whatever, without us having a voice in it and being able to change some minds and to change some directions. It's vital that we have a voice. This affects Klamath County. And so I appreciate your statements. Thank you for coming and setting the record straight, and we will continue to do it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners, for this opportunity to speak. My name is Steve Kander, and I reside at Hill Road, 20120 Hill Road. And the reason I'm wearing red is because now I am blushing crimson, and I want to have something else that...
Where'd you go? All I see is a red blur.
I'd like to read you something into the record regarding pollution control, which is related to total daily maximum loading. Pollution control. The state recognized that the growth of population and the economy of the Upper Klamath River Basin can result in pollution of the waters of Upper Klamath River Basin, constituting a menace to the health and welfare of, and occasionally economic loss to people living or having interest in the Klamath River Basin. The state recognized further that the protection of the beneficial uses of the waters of the Klamath River Basin requires cooperative action of the two states in pollution abatement control. And that is from the Klamath River Basin Compact of 1957.
Wow.
And so it's been in play for a long, long time. I would like to address, again, some of the information that is floating around regarding the Klamath Basin Restoration Agreement. And some of this is redundant regarding the testimony of Mr. Addington. And, of course, we're looking at what I would call the responsibilities of the county regarding the agreement. And I'm going to start with what I call defense of the agreement, which is Section 3.13 of the Klamath Basin Restoration Agreement. Subject to Section 2.2, each party shall support and defend this agreement. And if you go in and you read Section 2.2.5, it says, reservation, nothing in this agreement is intended or shall be construed to deprive any public official of the authority to revise, amend, or, and here's a word I can't pronounce, promulgate, counsel.
Sounds like an attorney thing, huh?
Promulgate.
It sounds like lawyers wrote this thing. Regulations. And I think the point needs to be made that you need to be there at the table. Because if we do not have you folks at the table who have the responsibility, then we abrogate our responsibilities to whoever's left at the table. I will tell you that the irrigators within the Klamath projects have been litigating TMDLs on the Straits Drain for almost a decade. A decade. And we have been having what I would call try to deal with settlements for that for most of that decade. So to really have just a solution is to go sue somebody regarding it is not a solution to the problem. All that does is what I call extend the process and make it more difficult for people to communicate. Cooperate, I think, is the word, the key word to this. Be at the table. Right now, Klamath County is at the table, has the ability to affect with all the other parties that have interest in the quality of water and to be productive as far as dealing with the total, the TMDL issues. You have solutions. And I think it's interesting now that you're going to be asked to leave that table, and then your cause of recourse will be to stand on the street and throw rocks at those that do affect, or to litigate, which has proven itself to be ineffective. So thank you for this time to present some options and some of the facts regarding do not abrogate your responsibility to the people of Klamath County to participate and affect and create appropriate TMDLs for the community. Thank you.